Hello, everyone. Welcome to Telling Tales and welcome back to Symbaroum. It's only Symbaroum, isn't it? Yeah. It's been a short while since we took part in this campaign, but we are here to return to it as he fixes the craziness of his lighting setup. There we go. Oh my god. It's like brighter than the sun. Wonderful. Yeah, this isn't Wrath of the Warden, despite what the opening crawl told you. Completely forgotten that our opening assets there featured that, so that's exciting. That's a great classic telling tale start. Excuse me a second. Let's experiment. Oh no, oh that won't do at all. Or will it? Is that spooky? Is that wonderful? No, it's flickering and horrible. Never mind. There we go. You'll just have to do with the crazy sort of Elder Scrolls Oblivion bloom there on the side of my face. That's all good. There we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the second installment of the Throne of Thorns. It's the Witch Hammer. Look at that. Look at this lovely book here. We have played through so much Symbaroum already. We've played through the Copper Crown. We've played through a couple of extra side stories. The most notable of which were probably Fever of the Hunt and Bell Tolls for Castor. And we've played through all of Wrath of the Warden, the first in the, I believe, 6-part Throne of Thorns campaign. So there's plenty yet to go. And we're going to launch into the Witch Hammer tonight with the caveat that, as with all my Symbaroum adaptations, I've fiddled with it quite a bit. So people who are very, very into Throne of Thorns, who've read The Witch Hammer 93 times, you may find the beginning slightly different. And by slightly, I mean almost completely different. So that's exciting for everyone. Yeah, let's do the old promo thing before we start bringing on our players. If you check down below, you'll find a bunch of links. There's links to YouTube and to Twitch. You're watching on one, please do check out the other. You'll find links to our social media, to our Discord, to our Patreon. If those are the kind of things that intrigue you, then maybe give them a go. Ooh, that lighting's much better. There we go. We currently run 3 weekly series on the channel. Mondays is Warhammer Fantasy. Tuesdays is the ending of our Cincinnati Chronicles, which is like a World of Darkness anthology series, and we're doing the 5th and final one of those arcs right now for Changing the Dreaming. And obviously, Wednesdays is Symbaroum. Here we are. We're starting it up again after a while playing Into the Odd. Here we are again with our sort of flagship campaign, and very happy to be back. We are. We also do monthly one-shots. Last month was Absurdia, which Pierre ran, a lovely little indie game. That's up on our YouTube now. And the next one will be on Sunday, August the 14th, and that's myself running Night of the Hogmen, which is a wonderful little scenario for the upcoming Teeth RPG. Yeah, that'll be a good one. We've got at least one person on from our Symbaroum crew in that. So, yeah, come join us for it. With that in mind, let's start introducing players. We won't do any big recaps here. What I'll probably do is do a very quick summary of the events leading up to the Witch Hammer. But I won't go into a huge amount of detail. And you should be able to more or less start from this point, I imagine. But for obviously for full satisfaction, full Symbaric satisfaction, feel free to go back and watch from the prologue onwards. Though not now. Don't do that now. Do that after. And then never stop doing that. We'd be very grateful. So let's bring on our first player. Our first player tonight, the person I have streamed and recorded most with in the entire world. It's only Chris. Look at him.
Hello.
Look at him. Look at that lovely face. So Chris plays Steo, infantryman, town guard, curmudgeon, turned sellsword and spear enthusiast. Could we get the art up for that, please, Joe?
Spear researcher as well.
Spear researcher. Let's start as we mean to go on, Chris. Let's not bring up the spear again.
We gotta keep the in-jokes going. That's what some of the people are here for.
Well, the only thing they keep coming back for. Yeah, so Steo has seen quite a lot in his what is Steo in his like late 60s? Is that where we settled?
I'd say probably kind of pushing towards 60 at this stage, definitely rounding up to 70.
Yeah. You know what? In my head, I thought like a fun thing for us to do, which I didn't go through with everyone, so we won't do it, but was to basically say who we'd cast as like actors to play our characters in, you know, the inevitable movie adaptation of this our small RPG stream. And you know who I picked in my head for Steo? I didn't go on to do anyone else, but you know who I picked in my head for Steo? Jeff Bridges.
Jeff Bridges.
He's got the range. He's a big lad. And he's got, you know what? I don't think he looks 100% dissimilar from that art.
Yeah, I'm very
So
handy if you need to cross a body of water or join two elevated parts of land.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it took me a second, but I did get there with that one. Yeah. And if there's ever a bowling scene, obviously he's got form with that in his career, so he'll be good. Yeah. Well, that bit fell flat. So moving on, let's bring on our next player, John. Mainly Chris, I got the vague impression you don't know who Jeff Bridges is, which kind of undercut.
I think we've discussed at length how I am basically face blind when it comes to actors. I have no idea who anyone
True,
is.
but like, yeah, but I did say his name rather than express his face out of my mouth like some horrific Lovecraftian entity. So, you know.
For the record, I based his art on Kevin Nash and Ron Perlman. So
okay, well, both of those
are
decent picks as well. There we go. So, with the mention of Kevin Nash, of course, that marks the second wrestling reference of the night. So alienating everyone like crazy, furiously proceeding onwards. So, John, you play Sir Aaron Dar, last scion of House Dar, sort of abandoned young nobleman trying to reclaim his legacy and his destiny. And also, it has to be said, perhaps a little bit the conscience of the group, which is terrible because one of the group is a priest.
Yeah.
So there we go. Not included in that art, of course, your new meerkat companion.
Who is called Farron. And I have been very, very studiously over the past couple of months trying to teach him not to mark his territory everywhere we go.
That's fair enough. That is fair enough. All right, let's bring on our third player, which tonight is Stephen. Oh, we're doing the double click. Go on.
You do it.
No, you go on. You go on. You treat yourself. Hi, Stephen.
Hello, are we good?
Yeah, we're fine. We're all good.
Fantastic.
Stephen plays Alindra, former Templar, cast out by the Order, and now selling her bloodied sword, I think it's fair to say, to the highest bidder. Yeah, how are you, Stephen?
I'm okay. Yeah, it's a well-used sword, I'd say. Definitely. I've been trying to think about the casting thing as well. Like Gwendolyn Christie from Game of Thrones is the obvious thing, but she's a bit old for Alindra, I think.
Yeah, Alindra's quite young, right?
She's sort of early 20s, so I don't know anybody that's currently active and that kind of age, and
I mean,
that kind of physicality.
Well,
are we just going to go back to wrestling again here, John?
I was going to go with Daisy Ridley, but maybe she's.
But Alindra is meant to be nearly 7 foot tall.
Yeah, no, not
Daisy Ridley is the size of a small pencil.
She's taller than me, I'll have you know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
She
doesn't seem very tall in Star Wars. That's all I'm saying.
We could just have her stand very close to the camera.
Yeah, that. Yeah, give her platform shoes. Do a Robert Downey Jr. on her.
Yeah, absolutely. And we narrowly avoided there, of course, alienating more people by, again, casting some kind of wrestler, Raquel Gonzalez. So if we're moving on then, let's bring on our fourth player. And speaking of wrestling, here's a man who loves a bit of wrestling, notoriously, because when I suggested watching some to him a few years ago, after knowing him for a long time and being very close friends with him, he leveled me with a gaze which genuinely made me briefly fear for my life. It's Mike. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Matt. Thank you for mischaracterizing me horribly with that anecdote, implying that I'm capable of wreaking great violence upon someone who just merely mentions the word wrestling in front of me.
I don't know, Mike. Everyone always says you're really nice, and those are the ones you want to watch, aren't they? So.
Also, I want to point out that for the record, I've got no problem with wrestling chat as long as we call it wrestling instead.
Well, I mean, we all speak proper here on Telling Tales, so of course we call it wrestling. Wrestling, Graps, all the best nicknames. Mike plays Anton, Theurg of Prios, child of the sun god, not literally. Somewhat questioning his faith a little bit these days. And of course, Mike rolls the worst dice you will ever see in any tabletop role-playing actual play. Isn't that right, Mike?
That is absolutely correct. Yeah.
I would like to say as well that I have played Mike with Mike in offline games too, and he's rolling in those was terrible, but nowhere near as terrible as on stream. So. Yeah. It's up to the viewer to determine whether that means the streams themselves are cursed or just Mike. But we've got our best people on it. So
can I just briefly interrupt to
please? One from Steve. Mike isn't capable of wreaking great violence, mainly because of the dice rolls. Yep, that's a good one from Steve. I also really like how it blanked specifically and only blanked out Mike on the screen when you brought it up.
Nice touch, guys.
If there's one thing I love better than Mike rolling terribly, it's me bullying him for rolling terribly. So there we go. Next, we have Sam. It's Sam. Hello,
Hey.
Sam.
Hello.
Sam plays Ascarai, Changeling Ranger, Scout, Bowman, Wearer of Cool Masks. These and so few more talents.
Glass cannon.
Absolute glass cannon. Was an even better glass cannon for a while until we figured out that we'd been reading the rules wrong.
Yeah.
But it's fine. It's down to reasonable levels now, sort of. So there we go. How are you feeling, Sam?
I'm feeling good. I've been thoroughly enjoying this intro so far. I've
Good.
a classic Symbaroum intro. I've liked every person's introduction.
Incredibly sloppy, is what you're saying.
No.
Yeah, I have been doing it and
words.
kind of hearing what's coming out of my mouth, like I'm literally in an out-of-body experience. While part of me's going, yeah, this is great banter, and the other part of me is going, oh no, this is an absolute disaster.
Well, I have enjoyed it.
Good.
Which wrestler would play Ascarai then?
It's a well, I don't know, because he's wearing a mask, and wrestlers don't really do that.
Well, I mean, he does take the mask off fairly often.
He does.
No wrestlers anyway have any tradition of wearing masks over their faces.
No.
Not a thing, really.
No,
Never
it's
happened.
not. It's not. Okay, we will apologize to Mexico comprehensively at the end of the stream. So there we go. There is our cast and crew, all returning characters from Wrath of the Warden. And like I say, I'm going to give the very briefest of summaries for context for anyone joining us. So our particular little group are a band of sellswords who sort of found common ground through all working together for a sort of sellsword and fortune hunter agency in the city of Thistlehold called Mother Mahira's Agency. And they have been involved in thwarting various occult schemes within the city of Thistlehold and out in the dark and forbidden forest of Davakar, the most recent of which saw a plot of multiple cults within the city that started with a horrible and awful sinkhole opening, an invasion of abominable humans from below, and culminated with the recovery of the head of an ox god, which was taken back to the forest of Davakar and replaced on its rather grateful form. Yeah. So thwarting occult bad guys, saving the city. These are all just a day's work for these folks. Well, no, a day's work is mostly doing something horrible for very low pay, but on occasion you get to do something nice. So there we go. We're going to pick up sort of with as little explanation as possible as what's going on and where we are, etc., because I love these kind of in media res things, as everyone knows. So we will pick up with a figure slowly riding a horse along the eastern road to the eastern gate of Thistlehold. They are swathed in a cloak of thick material and hunched against the hail and rain that patters on their cloak and on the road around them, and even perhaps a distant roaring can be heard from the northern horizon as it beats against the boughs and leaves of the nearest edge of Davakar. The horse slowly trots up to the gate. The city guards step forward, look up at the figure riding the horse, and are about to open their mouths to challenge the person riding in before they see and recognize the relatively cheaply and undecoratedly carved wooden mask that hides the features of Ascarai the Changeling. Recognizing this hero of the Sinkhold in Thistlehold, they just nod and step back as the horse trots forward. Another guard stands near the gate, kind of monitoring the activity there, bulky with a dark beard shot through with white, and snarling curses at the various guardsmen and women nearby who step to his commands with the utmost haste, it's safe to say. He wheels round, sees Ascarai trotting through these eastern gates, and says, "Where the fuck have you been?"
Why does that matter? It's just in the forest. Business as usual.
Right. Just, well, after all that, pays to keep an eye on you lot.
Well, I'm never gone for too long. Has anything happened here? Everything okay?
Nothing to make too much note of. Your priest friend, he came back in last night.
It's good to hear. Oh, hopefully I can track him down. It's been too long.
That stable bridle, that's marked from Castor. Went a little further than the forest, did we?
Well, I had some other business to take care of. We have some friends in Castor.
Right.
People have helped us.
Other people helping you? Shit me.
I need all the help I can get.
Somehow everyone needs help when you lot are nearby, don't they?
Look, I suppose that's true. It's hard to deny, but we've helped out. We've helped the city as well. It's not been all one way.
I suppose so. Anyway, Stio and the Templar girl came back in a couple of weeks ago as well.
Good old-fashioned reunion. I'd
Right.
wager some Thaler I'll find them at the Witch and Familiar if on a day like this.
You're probably right. Ale's free for you there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, lucky fuckers.
It's on account of our helping out. Goes a long way in a town like this.
I am sure. All right, then. Good to have you back, I suppose.
It's good to see you, Derek.
Off your foot, then.
Let's go right into the city.
Sure. And I'm assuming you're crossing most of the width of Thistlehold to find yourself at the entrance of the Witch and Familiar.
Yep, heading straight back home.
Okay.
Home-ish.
Absolutely. I think it's safe to say probably that we have kind of multiple places to stay now. There's the Witch and Familiar, there's the agency, there's even Anadea's safe house, which you've sort of taken possession of. So maybe everyone isn't staying at the Witch and Familiar all the time, especially probably Elindra and Aaron, since technically speaking, you probably were never offered lodgings for life there, being as you never actually technically helped Alamar out with anything. But regardless, you find yourself at the doorway of the Witch and Familiar with soft orange light spilling out onto the darkening street of Thistlehold. The town is as sodden and busy as ever, even though you are you're reaching the end of winter now. Spring is on the horizon. The air is cold, the weather is foul, but somehow there's less tension and despair in the air that there was at the beginning of autumn before the events of the sinkhole and the bell and everything that came with it. Inside, you can see some familiar figures sat round a table, and I will take a moment for any one of the other 4 players to shake their head if they don't think they'd be at the Witch and Familiar right now. But I'm assuming we're all happy with that. Cool. Okay. As I said, Anton, you returned last night. Steo and Elindra, you returned from your jaunt to Jackad's Heart a couple of weeks ago. And Arendar, I don't think you've left, other than to go on some ventures. And we'll get into what people have done in that downtime a little bit. And what I'm going to try and do, which might horribly collapse, is I'm going to feed it in as you guys talk to each other. So if anyone asks a question or wants to know something about something they suggested to me, fire it, and I will tell you what has transpired for people since they arrived. We'll see how that does. Ascarai, you stable your horse and walk in. The Witch and Familiar it looks the same as it ever does, pretty much. It is a barbarian tavern, and as such, it is laid out in a slightly unusual way. There are no chairs. There are just fire pits scattered around. The floors and walls are covered in mosses and ferns and plants, together with stuffed trophies of various animals that have been hunted down. There are quite a few clientele here. You suspect that the business has picked up for the Witch and Familiar since it became known that the heroes of the sinkhole drink here regularly, and probably the excitement of knowing that apparently from the last story they could come here and get poisoned anytime. But people in Thistlehold love a little danger. Your friends are sat around their usual space. The only difference you can pick up on, other than the extra custom, is that for the first time ever, there is a minstrel in the Witch and Familiar. And at the mention of minstrel, don't go getting excited, friends, for it is not the minstrel we have met previously. Instead, it is a youngish teenage boy wearing the traditional clothes and hair of the Odav people. He is playing a hand drum with one hand and a small, let's say the Odavs have a kind of like what are they called, Chris? Like a hand harp, like a sort of mouth harp, but you can trigger it with your hand. I have seen these things.
Do you mean like a kalimba?
I have not.
Okay, maybe a kalimba. I don't know.
Like
he's playing a
hand.
Yeah, he's playing a hand drum with one hand and like twanging a sort of instrument with the other. It makes a nicer sound than twanging. As you walk over to your friends, Ascarai, you register. Well, actually, you know what? Let's give me our first roll of the campaign. Why don't you give me a vigilant roll, which I'm happy to ask for because I know Ascarai will probably succeed on a vigilant roll.
I need a 15 or lower. Roll a 14.
There we go. As you walk over, you realize that the boy is playing what seems to be quite an unfamiliar ballad that tells of the noble quest and eventual sad end of Sir Orla of House Dar. You have a suspicion who may have funded the writing of this song. Everyone else, you notice that Ascarai has walked through the doorway of the Witch and Familiar.
This is an interesting song, Aaron. I don't think I've heard this one before.
He did a wonderful job with it. It's better than I could have hoped. I just hope Ola would have liked it.
Well, I suppose we sort of know what happened to Ola. It's not a bad song. I've heard worse.
I'm glad. How are you?
Good. Happy to find you all here. I figured it would be the likely place for you all on a day like this. Not particularly pleasant weather. Just come back from Castor.
Would you like to know how your trip to Castor went, Askarai?
I would love to know how the trip to Castor went.
So, Askarai ventured east to Castor in order to talk to Semmel, their friend from their time there, who was an agent of the Iron Pact. Essentially to find out more about the different factions within the Iron Pact and kind of what may be going on with those tensions that you have encountered near the end of Wrath of the Warden. Semmel informs you of everything he knows of the different factions within the Iron Pact, which is very little. He revealed that his handler within the Pact has contacted him since Castor was restored, but he is essentially just on his own recognizance. He has never heard of Teara Teana or Lysindra, and has only heard rumors of the Hall of 1,000 Tears. He is aware of Prince Eniano, who I believe you heard briefly. You heard him briefly within the halls and also heard tell of him. He explained that he's a much respected leader within the Iron Pact, but when he has tried to find out more about him, elves have become tight-lipped with looks of what may be concern.
Okay.
And I'm sure Askarai will divulge most of that.
Yeah. I would have also shared information with Semmel about, what we found out. He's always been pretty open with us. Seems like a trustworthy guy.
Yeah.
And I
think you particularly were quite close to him, right? Askarai was. Yeah.
Yeah, because he thought
he thought you were in the Iron Pact. So,
yeah. I specifically would have warned him that there's a faction of the Iron Pact that maybe is not. That there are various factions, and maybe to stick with the one he knows rather than taking orders from any old elf that kind of shows up and tells him.
Any old elf that shows up and puts a throwing axe in the head of a cult leader. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Semmel's doing well, still alive, which is not bad going. What about all of you guys? I heard, Anton, you got back yesterday.
I did. Find myself acclimatizing to this colder northern winter. Slowly but surely, anyway.
Would you like to know how your travels went, Anton?
God, how many years have you been here now, Anton?
I think the characters have only been here
1 year,
1 year, maybe a bit more. Yeah,
I think we arrived. I think we started the first campaign in autumn
of the previous year.
year.
Yeah. So it would be like a year and a quarter. Yeah. Something like that.
Are the winters colder the further north you go?
Yes, I think so. Yeah. Although if you go as far south as you know, which is Alberator, the winters are probably very cold there. But that's nothing to do with climate. But yes, I think so. I think there's a sense of sort of polarness. I think we'll find out.
I think we've previously said that the further you go into Davokar, the colder it gets.
Yeah,
and
it does make sense.
It's not necessarily, but we've previously said that people from southern Alberator tend to be darker skinned, which would imply a warmer climate. Assuming
that things, that people have whatever the same way in Symbaroum as they have here. Yeah, sure. I think, because I think it's described like down by Indaros and like the heartland of Ambria is more balmy weather. So I think that tracks. We'll go with that anyway. Anton, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you found yourself traveling south of Thistlehold and south of Davakar, trying to find similar places to Jackad's Heart in order to sort of... I got the impression, Mike, and correct me if I'm wrong, that it wasn't even so much to find a place you could dwell or provide service after your adventuring, almost more that Anton has to believe that he can find a place like that.
And
there
also
will be some normal life for him after all this.
And also to like try and help out in a few of these places and find out what he wants to do.
Yeah.
Like whether he wants to farm or whether he wants to continue priesting. That sort
Absolutely.
of stuff.
Well, you know what? You found little to do on your travels, apart from providing some aid to the many refugees traveling north to Blackmoor, drawn by the promises of the increased labour market in Thistlehold. The sinkhole itself and portions of the city were wrecked and left with great destruction, and all of those have had massive building works constructed on them in order to, drive the reconstruction of the city, which is wonderful and is providing a lot of people some coin, but it's also inevitably going to stop. And those refugees are coming north from Indaros. It seemed to you like hundreds per day. There are also some people seeking their fortune or just day-to-day work, moving down in small groups from the southern edge of Davakar, who passed on to you secondhand rumors of trouble further north in the forest. They have no specifics, other than hearsay of politics gone sour and some kind of odd witch leading a movement against the southern clans.
Okay.
Which you vaguely have heard tell of before, if we recall, from a ranger in the forest.
Yeah, that sounds right. Can we just assume that I've passed all of that on to the group rather than
absolutely? Yeah, absolutely.
Well, yeah, it was quite an interesting trip. I'm not sure if I did achieve what I intended to, but I do find myself learning more and more about this land and the trials and tribulations of those who live here or visit here for work. I do feel myself feeling quite re-energized, though, and there's a lot to be said for that. How about yourself, Elindra? How have you been passing the time?
Well, re-energized as well, albeit with different kinds of travels. Steo and I went to Jackad's Heart and had a very pleasant time.
Very relaxing. Not much happened, which is exactly what you were hoping for.
It was good. I got clean and fed and warm, and it felt like I hadn't been those things for quite some time before that.
Steel has the look of a man who is suffering from like a 4-month hangover, and is kind of grumbles. Like I did the opposite of get clean. In fairness,
each to their own, Steo. And then I've come back here. I've been sleeping at the agency and just trying to take on whatever work they have, make some coin.
I believe as well. Sorry, you finished it.
I was just going to say, Davakar has not been as profitable for me as it has for some of you.
No, and most of those jobs have been, essentially people hiring you mainly as on bodyguard duty for meetings where they just want to impress people that one of the heroes of the sinkhole is standing behind them with a sword drawn.
Sure.
But hey, it paid decent enough.
Yeah.
So that's good. And I think I did, in fact, come up with a way of... Because I think you were pretty much the only person who said, I've worked. So I'm going to assume for the rest of you that because of the duties you provided to Thistlehold, and because of the kind of benefits you'd get from that, I'm literally going to say that your costs for the last 4 months are even. So the relatively small amount of pay you got for your services to Thistlehold, plus the amount of freebies you've got for doing that, have led you to more or less an even keel from your last amount. Elindra, however, did say she had worked. So let's see how much profit Elindra has made. Give me a d20 roll modified by your strength. So that's a +5, I think.
15 in strong. So d20 plus 5.
Mm-hmm.
That's a 7, so that's going to be 12.
Okay, that's 12 Thala then.
Ooh, thanks.
That's good work. That's better than garden money.
It's not bad. Again, high profile,
celebrity garden.
Yeah, rich merchants, minor nobles wanting to impress someone and offering pretty decent fees, which Mahira was more than willing to accept and take her cut and pass on the rest. So there we go. I believe also, Elindra, you had been interested in the ongoing rumblings of discontent between the Sun Church and the Templars.
Yes, I don't know how much of this I'll just bring up in conversation at the pub, but yes, I would have.
Sure,
been...
but would you like the information you've recovered?
Oh yeah,
then
sure.
You can choose whether to pass it on or not. So it is noticeable that there are even less Templars on the streets of Thistlehold than ever before, and that the guards at the Sun Temple dwindle week on week. The talk among the general population is that there is some kind of mighty falling out between the Knight Commander and the First Father, and the former is withholding his knights until it is resolved. Also, I believe you had a book passed on to you by the unwitting McKell brother, who did not realize that you were one of the people who essentially knocked him over the back of the head and tied him up in a blanket.
Yeah.
Which I believe was called, is it just called the Book of Dead Prios?
I don't know if I don't think you gave me the title.
Sure. Well, it is called that anyway.
Okay.
Unless I have misquoted that from the book, in which case I will correct it another time. It is not credited with any author, but it seems to be essentially a treatise that Prios is dead, murdered by agents of the Eternal Night and their allies during the last days of the war back in Alberator. And even now, these agents of the Eternal Night spread the poison of heresy into the hearts and minds of decent Ambrian folk. Righteousness has been replaced by fury, prosecution with retribution, and there is nothing left for Prios-fearing folk to do but to avenge their fallen god in any and every way possible. They accept that their lives are forfeit, their souls are lost, Prios is dead, purity is dead. All that is left to do before the eternal night closes over the world is to drag down as many of its servants as possible, and when the time comes and death claims them, to kneel in eternal mourning in the cold ashes of their fallen lord. So it's an upbeat read.
That's that's very much Elindra's kind of dance there, right?
Yeah, it absolutely goes without saying that it is quite heretical.
Yeah.
You have no idea what a Templar was doing reading this.
Yeah. Well, but it sounds like a lot of the Templars have read it.
Maybe.
Yeah. I will.
As for making contact with them or anything, you haven't been able to.
Yeah, I think I got a name and a place, which I think was probably Temple Wall. I will not have had a chance to get to Temple Wall.
No, where the center of power of the Templars is, and the name you were given is Jacobo Vieira, who, is the Knight Commander of the Templars. So you were pointed at.
Okay.
So
the Knights of the Dying Sun goes right to the top, essentially.
Maybe.
Okay.
So, out of interest, how much of that do you divulge to your companions?
I don't think it's the sort of thing that comes up in polite pub conversation.
You'd hope not.
I assume that the only person that's likely to take much of an interest in what the Templars are doing is Anton, and I'm kind of wary about upsetting Anton. It's not Elindra's intention to sort of shake his faith,
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So, is anyone else being asked about their activities? Who shall we hop onto next?
So I would quite like to insert myself. I want to know, do I have any wares with me that I may have purchased during recent work?
Oh, your backup spear?
Yeah.
Is that what you wanted? Yeah. Spears don't normally come with deep impact. That's normally for halberds, but I see no reason why you can't just call it a spear and it do the same thing. So with that in mind, yeah, absolutely. It will have cost you. Let me have a look. Yeah, halberd with deep impact costs. Oh well, that's the thing. A halberd with deep impact, which is what's your damage on your fancy spear? Is it a D10?
Yeah, D10.
Yeah. Okay, so but that's one up because you've got the long. Yeah. Okay, a spear with deep impact, which will just do the same damage, D10. Although does deep impact just do +1 damage or something?
Yeah, it's +1 on the final damage roll.
Oh right, that's the same thing then. Yeah. That's 15 thaler. That will have cost you.
Oh, nice, great. Yeah, so I would, with a little bit of pride, detecting the first possible break in the conversation, Steo will take the wrapped in probably some leather backup spear and kind of lay it on the table and go, look, check this out, and unwrap it.
But Steo, what happened to your old one?
The old one's fine. It's just you want to really walk around with the spear of a dead king of Davokar all the time. People would talk if they don't already.
So what's the history of this one then?
I bought it yesterday. I'm very proud of it. I don't quite know what I'm going to call it. Probably Pelstagion or Conflagellor or something. I'll come up with something.
I'm not familiar with the process by which one names pointy sticks, but it looks beautiful.
Nice, keen and slicey. It's going to serve me pretty well, I think. Not a mark on Hurrian's spear, but still, not the worst thing I've ever picked up.
Does your other spear have a name?
That's a great question, and much as I have tried, not been able to find it. We know who owned it.
Well, it's yours now. You could name it whatever you like.
It could be called
Maybe I should
Hurrian
have asked the
Spear.
elves. Yeah. I call it the Spear of the Dead King, but no one ever asks.
That's a cool name for it. That's fine.
What I should have done is ask the elves if I can, if they're going to overlook the fact I'm walking around with a pilfered Symbaroum artifact. I don't know if my exchanged it for a basic guard spear is going to hold water in whatever court they have underground.
Have you had anything more from the elves since that day we fixed their god?
Nothing.
Rumor and conjecture.
I think that's the way the elves like it, isn't it?
Yeah, plus it's probably for the best, because if they're asking for our help, then they've run out of normal people to ask.
Competent people.
Well, they did offer us some compensation, but elves, I suppose.
I wonder if they have a different sense of time to us.
I wonder if they simply can't be trusted.
I wonder.
It's almost certain if you live for centuries, then waiting for an appointment from them will take a little bit longer than it does for other folks.
Yeah, I don't quite know what an elf lifespan is like, but I could believe that they're not in so much of a hurry.
Exactly. As far as other things that Steo has done, Chris, that you might want to know, I believe you wanted to study your Medicus a bit more under various healers around Thistlehold, including the old lady healer we encountered quite near the end of Wrath of the Warden, I think. You have done so successfully. She is... you think she views you more as like someone who occasionally turns up and helps her than necessarily a student, but it doesn't
amazing.
It doesn't particularly matter because you're still learning.
Yeah, viewers at home will be intrigued to realize that I have bought Medicus 2, which gives me a dice step on all healing, which should be a delight when the problems start, as they inevitably will.
Absolutely. Which leaves just one of us to report on their activities. And Arindar, would you like to hear how your quest to link up with the notorious heretic Father Sarvola went?
The nice heretic, yes.
Nice. He is also notorious.
Yeah.
So Sarvola has all but disappeared from his mission. The occasional sermon is given, but only one or two of his ministrations since the mission was rebuilt 3 months back. He is seen occasionally around Thistlehold, and he still has many loyal followers, but rumours are rife. Mostly that he is still in terrible danger, and that any day now the Twilight Friars will arrive in the city to put him in chains for heresy. You managed a brief meeting with him, probably due to your hero status. Sarvola welcomed your aid in Blackmoor, or the aid you'd proposed for the refugees that kind of touched Aaron's heart there, and directed you to the emissaries of the mission there if you wanted to help, the kind of soup kitchens and basically the people you already met in Blackmoor. Beyond that, he had no guidance and apologized for how limited his time was for meeting even those who saved the city. He seemed to not be afraid, but instead determined and driven.
I would have once again offered my assistance in guard duty if he felt it was needed.
He will have thanked you for that and assured you that it currently was not. You have not seen him even around Thistlehold since that day.
Right.
And that was about a month ago.
Interesting.
So, with that in mind, feel free to, do the role-playing stuff and talk amongst yourselves, unless we want to wrap up the evening here at Witch and Familiar. Is there anything else that anyone wants to inquire about?
So once we've talked with, once Aaron's kind of given us a lowdown, I'll be like, are you worried about him?
I'm not sure. He seems awfully... I'm not sure confident is the right term. Unconcerned.
What about his kid? The crazy child we found in the forest. What even?
Speaking of Aluin, since someone else had asked about Aluin, I also came up with a bit for Aluin. Aluin has been spotted around the city even less than Sarvola, and always by his side when he is there. He seems unconcerned by recent events, and indeed anything at all. None of you personally have seen him, and he was not present for Aaron's meeting with Father Sarvola. So, fuck all, in other words.
Perhaps just...
It seems...
casual unconcernedness about personal danger runs in the family.
The one thing that scares me the most is people who aren't at least a little bit scared of events like your whole mission got nearly burnt down. And how does this factor in with the dead Prios cult?
Factor in how?
But he seems like a Prios is alive. Yeah, Sarvola seems like very much a Prios is alive kind of guy.
Yes.
I mean, that's he's a heretic, but I don't think he's that kind of heretic.
I think, if anything, his confidence comes from his faith and his belief, and he is the proof of Prios. He feels the protection of Prios every day.
I think he feels and interprets his faith somewhat differently to the rest of the church, and I think that's why.
I feel like we're dealing with the heretics, the actual church, and then whatever the dead Prios cult are doing.
Well,
no offense, Anton, but at this stage, you should not be surprised by my.
They're growing, is what they're doing.
I think the events of the last few months have opened up my eyes and perhaps a few eyes around this table to the complexities that the church operates within.
And speaking of the church, Anton, would you like another little blurb of things that have happened in the last few months, specifically some meetings you have had with the Lightbringer.
Sure.
Because you wanted to maintain links with her, right?
Yep.
Does the priest want to maintain links with a living saint? Probably yes. So you've had 2 more meetings with the Lightbringer in the months since the events at the sinkhole. She has seemed very interested in your background, your adventures, and your companions. These meetings have always seemed friendly and casual, with the air of an old lady interested in the goings-on of the outside world while she dwells in seclusion. But you also came away feeling as though Deceiba had seen directly into your heart and unraveled your past with kindly expertise. What do you think you will have told her of the further events of, or indeed the earlier events that you hadn't told her initially, of the Wrath of the Warden story? Do you think essentially she knows the entire thing by now? It's up to you entirely.
I don't know. Did I feel like I was being manipulated into giving her this information?
No, not. You felt like she knew what she was doing, and she was like bringing you kind of out of your shell and getting details of things from you, but you never felt you were being manipulated.
I think I would be hesitant to give her perhaps everything, but I would certainly tell her more than I would tell anyone else within the church structure.
Sure. I guess a key question: did you tell her of Tiara Tiana and the Hall of 1,000 Tears and Eox, I suppose?
Yeah, I think I would have told her that.
Okay. That is absolutely fine. So, there we go. As you are all sat around, sharing the events and enjoying the easy camaraderie within the Witch and Familiar, another figure wanders in out of the night. The weather has gotten even fouler out there now. You can hear the hail battering against the windows, the rain drumming against the cobblestones, and a figure almost kind of like lurches inside, like desperately, like pulling bits of cape and cloak off himself and casting them to one side, kind of draping them up near the fire. As he turns around and kind of peers around, you see a familiar individual, although it takes you a moment because, as he normally does, he's wearing kind of a cloth along the lower half of his face to cover up some of it. Quite a typical thing for a changeling to do. It is Ganderald, the adept of the Order Magica, who accompanied you down into the sinkhole on the first occasion you went, and provided somewhat of a useful source of information on various things throughout Wrath of the Warden. He spots you over gathered where you are all sat together, and sort of eyes widen in recognition, and he sort of scampers over, kind of brushing loose water off himself as he goes. He seems quite satisfied that your fire pit is roaring, and steps up and says, "Heroes of the sinkhole, it is quite the night outside."
Yes.
How can we help, Ganderald?
May I take a seat in your circle?
Yeah, why not?
Thank you. I'm sorry. He kind of reaches under one part of his cloak that's still bound around his waist and fishes out kind of quite a wet little notebook and sort of makes a deeply unsatisfied noise and sort of props it up on its end, near the fire to try and dry it out without necessarily setting it aflame. Yes. This is not a social call, I'm afraid. More of a professional one, if you welcome that kind of talk at this time of night.
Well, as long as you welcome deferred action, if it's something that requires me to go and get wet.
Oh, no, indeed, not on this horrible night. I'm dreading the travel back to the tower enough. A little bit of background, if you'll indulge me. My master, Gonkai, you met him, I believe. You did indeed. He was a somewhat louche and slightly drunken master who helped you with access to the tower's archives, if you recall. We have shared a great deal of work over the last couple of years as I have been training as an adept at the tower. Research around the activity, purposes, dwelling places of elf groups within Davokar. Obviously a subject of some interest to me. He kind of shares a glance with Askarai at this point.
That's great. Just gives him a nod. Yeah.
To further our findings, there are a number of sites, well, two primarily, that are in need of investigation. However, given recent events and the current focus of the Order within Thistlehold, it seems unlikely that our more modest and academic propositions will get serious backing from Cornelio or Eufrinda. Fioria is caught up entirely in his own studies.
Which recent events and current focus are you referring to exactly?
Well, the rebuilding, of course, and the study of the Isle down below, which I'm sure you can appreciate needs some care paid to it.
That would have generated a lot of work for you, I understand.
Well, quite. But our studies are still important, and my master has proposed that perhaps we take care of the funding. He has some money himself, and the hiring. And Cornelio is more than happy to sign that off to keep Gonkai quiet in his cups. So I will not insult your intelligence. Here I am. We know that you are competent. We have a good working relationship. And as I say, 2 locations, not so far off the beaten path in Bright Davokar, both near the main pathways north to Karvosti. Not large or intriguing enough to have seen significant exploration yet. You provide protection and delving expertise, in return for which you can take anything found in the ruins for yourselves, with the slight proviso that if it relates to our studies, then we can examine what they might be at our leisure before they are returned for usage or sale. My master will take care of any license requirements. I suppose that is it.
And are we looking for elves or for things that elves have left behind?
Well, I'd hope more the latter. Obviously, encounters with elves, even in Bright Davokar, can go any number of ways. But it is more the patterns of their movement we are interested in. I suspect these 2 ruins might be occasionally occupied camps, places to stay. But these are mere suppositions, and there is no evidence yet from the ground. And that is what we need to get.
So after you, Stio.
It's official Ordo, but we're on the Ordo's books for this. It's not some
funding is not direct.
operation.
The funding is not directly from the Ordo's books. But yes, my master is doing this with the full knowledge of the other masters in the tower, and it will be logged as part of Ordo business.
So as Ordo business, you're going to pay for our licenses and accompany us to 2 known promising locations
not
search,
overly known and not overly promising, if I'm honest.
Known to you to be promising in that they've likely not been cleared out already.
That's right. I can't
speak treasure that we're going to keep.
After some study, if necessary. It may not be, I won't lie to you, there may be nothing there at all. But either way, I suppose your I don't know, your stock with the Ordo raises. We take a journey out now that spring is approaching. But is guaranteed in Davokar, is it not?
It still sounds like the best offer that I've heard from anyone about anything since arriving in Thistlehold, and I'm just trying to work out what the catch is.
It's in Davokar, Alindra. The catch is almost certain death of some description.
I don't know that I'd go that far, but perhaps now you are heroes, these kind of catches will occur less and less.
I say we should do it. At least it'll avoid any less experienced people falling to trouble. Plus, I've always wanted to see Carvasti.
Yeah,
I'll take it over just being a show and tell device for some minor local nobleman.
Well, we will be going quite near to Carvasti, and if we wanted somewhere pleasant to stay before we have to make the journey back, it would be good. I have been there several times. I am happy to show you the plateau. Should we have need or desire to stop off at the seat of the High Chieftain and the Huldra?
I would be happy to go, and I would be even happier to visit Carvasti.
He nods and is kind of like flickering the pages of that notebook to check how dry it has become, and frowning a little at the edges being, kind of browned and starting to blacken. And yourself, Sadar? Father Anton?
Sounds interesting.
I'm never that enthusiastic about a return to Davokar, but even I must admit that this does seem one of the best possible circumstances in which to revisit. So I will join.
Wonderful. We will have to leave it a few days yet, I'm afraid. Things must be orchestrated, and the closer we leave it to the end of winter, the better, I imagine. But I will be in touch then.
Sure.
Excellent.
Don't forget to let Mother Mahira know.
Oh, yes, we will do. Obviously, there will be some arrangements made for your services. We will make contact through your goblin friend. Yes.
Is a DM question? Is Erfon's back on his feet?
Erfon's is back on his feet, although he's definitely a little slower right now than he was, and he notably has not been going out on actual combat engagements since the events at the tannery.
Right.
Will it be just yourself and Gonkai coming along, or others from the order?
Gonkai is not coming. Good. No. He would miss his luxuries too much. No, it is just me.
Okay.
But I am aware, I was made aware, and I am personally aware of perhaps my specific and focused usefulness within the sinkhole, and I have spent some time learning from Masters Euphrinda and Furia a few little cantrips that may help should we come up against some resistance. I'm prepared to put my weight in.
And you've been to Carvasti before, so this sounds like an easy trip. Just 2 sites near the coach road to Carvasti. I don't see any reason why not. If we have to go into Davokar this year, this sounds like the best terms to do it under.
I wasn't going to go as far as to say it sounded easy, Theo, but you've said it now.
I'm pretty sure I've killed 2 gods. I'm pretty sure this also classes as easy.
Ganderol kind of shoots you a glance at the talk of killing 2 gods and says, yes, well, regardless, I will return to the tower then. It seems that the hail outside has ceased somewhat, so I will take this window of opportunity. Thank you for hearing me out, and I will be in touch.
Good luck with the weather.
He stands up, bundles himself up in his still soaked and dripping bits of extra clothing and dashes out into the night.
They'll call me God Killer yet if I keep that rumor going.
Better than Dog Killer.
It's not entirely untrue. It's just my contribution to the death of said elder spirits was pretty negligible, but still.
They'll call you a heretic if you're not careful, Steo.
Oh shit! Half the church is calling the other half of the church heretics these days. I think. I
Wow.
think of all ages, it is safe.
I think
to be more wary of Davokar than the church at current weather.
Given the current ecclesiastical climate, God Killer is not a fantastic moniker to be walking around with.
Yeah, not that God though.
Well, good luck getting to the end of that sentence if you meet people that take it the wrong way.
I understood that Ambience thought there only was one God.
Yes, that's part of the problem.
Yeah, but when you meet the things in Davokar, you start to realize that maybe the stories told around well-kept farmland and pretty rivers of Alberator might not be everything that was or is.
Just looking at Anton at this point.
Stio is definitely the only person who remembers rivers and countryside in Alberator. Anton, sorry.
I will politely excuse myself and get another round of drinks.
Ever the politician. So after this round of drinks happens, are we retiring for the evening, perhaps to the agency, perhaps to the safe house, somewhere like that, or going our own ways?
Yeah. I mean, Asgard will sleep in the Witch and Familiar if they're still letting him stay there.
Yeah, and Tom would as well.
So,
go ahead.
Steele's doing that thing where he's being very paranoid and is moving his lodgings quite frequently. So he will probably go to the safe house tonight.
Okay, that's fair enough. And obviously, Aaron and Elindra, not so much free lodgings at the Witch and Familiar. So, where do you two think you might go?
I'll probably walk across town to the agency. I would hope that I could have maybe got some board as part of payment at the agency or some kind of agreement there.
Sure, absolutely. Arindar, how about you? Agency or safe house?
I would also be at the agency.
Okay, that's fine. So then you say your good nights to Askarai and Antom and head out. Elindra and Arindar, then you'll be heading east, and Stio more kind of northeast. So you split up fairly soon, and it's not far beyond where you're going, where. Let me see. Arindar, can you roll vigilant, please?
Oh, I actually succeeded. I had a target of 5 and I rolled 3.
Okay. What would be an item you are carrying that is not of huge importance, but neither is something you would wish to leave behind?
Oh God, I can't think like what I would normally have
like
carrying
an eating
with me.
knife or a purse with some small amount of coin in, or a handkerchief, or
let's go for an eating knife. Why not?
Sure. Like maybe a house dar emblazoned eating knife or something. You know, it's not valuable, but it has some sentimental value. Yeah, it is not on your person. You don't remember leaving it at the Witch and Familiar, but it probably is there.
What's the weather like?
It has significantly calmed down now, and you are maybe a street away from the Witch and Familiar.
Elindra, I need to. I can't find my knife. I'm just gonna go back and see if Alamar's found it or anyone's handed it in. Could you save me a bed?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'd say I imagine you have Ferrin with you, right, Aaron?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. So you are, as you are, Ferrin is padding along the street, and you are wandering the short way back, kind of Elindra's footsteps receding into the distance now. Obviously, it's not raining anymore, but the eaves are still dripping, and there's still kind of the gentle creak of buildings adjusting to the sudden shift in temperatures that rain and hail bring. And while that is happening, about half a street away from the Witch and Familiar, down a side alley, you hear the familiar voice of Steo saying, Aaron, in here.
Steo?
In here.
I will.
Ferrin
Not
does
even
not seem.
hesitantly.
Ferrin is looking curiously and does not seem alarmed.
I will head in without nary a thought.
Okay, Steo. As you are walking along the street north towards where all the reconstruction of the sinkhole has taken place, because of course, I believe Anadea's safe house is quite near that location, if I recall. No, actually, I think it's south. Is it not in the south part of the city? I'm sure I could check this by.
We will check it, but I'm pretty sure it was in the kind of cluster in the north. Actually, it was kind of northwest in that same kind of.
I thought it was northwest.
Okay,
I thought it was southwest.
Wonderful. I will very quickly check this because continuity is important to me. So let's quickly find that out with a map from Wrath of the Warden.
New for season 2. Continuity is important now.
Hey. Oh, good lord! And my PDF is being horrible as usual. Let me find out. Here we go. Anadea's safe house. Anadea's storage is I, which is the least helpful of all. No, yeah, it is in the northwest. Good. I was originally right. This all works out. It's all good. We can start role playing again now. As you are walking along the streets, and they're not deserted, but they're not particularly crowded either. What with the weather having been what it is, but people are leaving taverns and the like, and leaving places of work to go home now that the rain and hail has ceased. But still, you find yourself on a relatively quiet street, not too far from the Witch and Familiar already, not too far to the storage safe house either. It's quite close. When from a nearby alley, you hear a voice saying, a familiar one, Aaron's one, saying, Steo, quickly in here.
So, Steo's already pretty paranoid, and he's also a guardsman. Can I have a cunning roll to get a little bit weirded out by this?
Yeah.
Because I know that Aaron is probably going to be making his bunk at Monomahiras.
He is, but it has to be said, your paths aren't too far from each other. So it is perfectly feasible that Aaron could be at this point between the two of you for whatever reason. If you see what I mean. But still do make a roll, because it is a bit weird, even though you are mildly drunk. Ooh, we've got a frozen Chris there, folks.
A malice, I'd still pass that.
Sorry, did you say you still passed? Oh, we appear to have lost Chris momentarily, I'm afraid, folks.
And we're back, I think.
And we're back. There we go. Did you pass?
Oh, the suspense.
Every time I ask the question, immediately vanishes.
So I'm back now, I think. That's
You're back?
The first sustained period of packet drops since we started the stream, and it was just when I had to do something. Yeah. I hope you saw my 6, which is a comfortable success.
Okay. Then, yeah, it's like... It definitely... You don't think it's outside the bounds of possibility that Aaron is calling to you from inside an alleyway, but perhaps from the amount of encounters you've had with people who change their shape and mimicry and odd things like this, it definitely sets off some alarms at the back of your head, perhaps enough to at least make sure your spear is out and the like.
Yeah, so I will get my brand new spear out, and with the hello, what's all this then? Confidence of a guard, kind of. Hello, what's going on here?
Okay. Are you proceeding a little bit into the alleyway to... It's not like a horribly dark alleyway. It seems to be leading to... we talked about how a lot of old cities and also mishmash places like Thistlehold have sort of... You go down an alleyway and all of a sudden you're in like a big yard area where other houses and such are. It's like that. We've been in a few of them since we started our campaign. You find yourself in one of those. Very soon from an alleyway at the other side of this sort of yard area, Arindar emerges with a look of confusion on his face. Arin, on a block of stone in the center of this yard is your eating knife placed gently and centrally.
Oh. Well. Thank you, Steo.
Dar, knives out. Kind of gesture to your sword. And kind of, you'll see me holding the I'll be holding my spear and I'll be like, get the knife out.
I will,
sword time.
Slightly unsure, draw my sword and dagger.
As you do this, a heavily and oddly accented voice speaks from the shadows, clinging to a high wall on one side of the yard. You do not see the speaker. There is no need for alarm.
I think we'll be the judge of that.
Can we see you, please?
Ah, you friends in strife and sorrow.
I am a friend in strife and sorrow.
Yes, you have heard that phrase said by someone else before. If you truly desire the mantle of Iron Sworn, then serendipity already leads you where you must go. Travel north. Make your way to the high plateau, and there find one of the forest people. His name is Malahai. Tell him you are known to her. You know of whom I speak.
Thank you. We will do our best.
Then a pact is spoken, but yet to be forged. Nevermore.
Nevermore. I will bow in the direction of the voice.
Is he making to move away, or is he does it feel like...
I mean, you never saw anyone. No one is speaking anymore, and you just kind of get the sensation that the yard is emptier than it was a moment ago. But you definitely never saw the individuals.
Suppose I'll do a prayer just to kind of ensure they've left and kind of...
Sure, yeah, you can pace around. Yeah, you don't find any traces of anyone, and you definitely don't find anyone. Your eating knife is perfectly safe for what it's worth, Arindar. Like, it doesn't look changed or interfered with in any way. Just clearly your attention was needed.
Yeah. Okay. I will put all of my respective blades away.
I guess we're on packed business.
Yes.
How exciting.
Lucky that we're going there anyway.
Maybe. These people have a lot of fingers. More fingers than there are pies, if I think. We already know there was one of the Ordo was in their ranks.
Did we?
We did. I think
certainly a former member of the Ordo, yeah. Master Vernum was Tiara Tiana's agent in Thistlehold before Anadea, and had not been cast out of the Ordo, but had kind of left it because he disagreed with their policies, and then ended up getting fucking killed and flayed by the Flayer. Which is why she needed to seek out another agent, which is why Anadea was working for her.
Aaron wasn't around for all that.
No, he was not.
Okay, well, see you tomorrow, and just a lot of people get mugged into alleyways.
Terribly. As a choppy
Take
sentence,
care, yeah?
Chris, that sounded very intimidating.
Well, they sounded like you.
Yeah, they sounded like you as well, but I kind of twigged you. There was no reason you would call me Freeway when you knew exactly when I was going or where I was going. This is very frustrating. I do apologize.
It's very choppy. We might want to switch your camera off again just for now. See if that helps. Yeah. Has everyone else on the stream, by the way, got their cams at 480p or lower for Chris's bandwidth's sake? Because if you open up your settings and make sure it's at standard definition rather than high definition. There we go.
I'm at standard. I can go lower if you need to.
No, standard should be fine. We don't want to torture our viewers. Or do we?
So
if we do, it's nothing to do with cams. Yeah.
Off the back of that, probably poorly executed pep talk and personal safety talk for Arendar, I'll kind of try and take my leave.
Sure, absolutely. So there we go. Now we have some further business to take care of the following day before we move forward as a group with any preparations we might have. There are two things that occur the next morning. One, Elindra, you have a pre-arranged meeting with Cullinan Furia, the master of the Ordo Magica, who sort of helped out in Wrath of the Warden, and who had at least certainly recognized that you had some kind of maybe mystic potential, or at least abilities that needed explaining. And he's offered, some degree of help to you. For a very given definition of help, for a more, you have seen him a couple of times, and he's mostly just been questioning you about odd things, such as your childhood, your memories of training at Temple Wall. You haven't got a terrible amount from it, but you get the sense that Fury is the kind of guy who you just have to work on his timetable because he won't accept anything else. So there we go. Anyway, you have a pre-arranged meeting with him, and also. Anton, when you wake in the morning at the Butch and Familiar, a message has been left with Alamar for you that a friend wishes to see you at the Sun Temple. This is almost certainly a message from Desaber because you've had similar messages before. Who thinks they might hop to their appointment faster?
Perhaps me, because I wouldn't have thought I'd want to keep Desaber waiting.
Sure. Does that tally with your thinking, Elindra?
Probably. I mean, if there's an appointed time, then Elindra would probably get up early and have a sort of leisurely time of it before going.
You know what? I haven't rolled a die yet in this session, so I'm just going to roll a die for who gets to their appointment faster, and we'll do them first.
That's quite some dice.
That's a 20.
You thought your rolls were bad, Mike.
You literally rolled a die, as in to die.
There we go. I have no idea what happened there. Just vanished. So that's great.
Did your the dice land on the escape key and the weight of it press it down?
No, I think I might have hit my thumb button on my mouse, which I think is set to back on browsers. So that's probably what happened. That's probably what happened. It's fine. We're all good now. We're all good.
You've got a whole button on your mouse, which is just the wreck the stream button.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing.
It is that and finisher on Destiny 2. Those are its only purposes. So let's I have rolled Elindra first. So let's say that Elindra's appointment with Furia was, let's in fact say it was an annoying time in the morning. 5:30 or something, the very early watches of the morning. And you said, I think, that you'd want to be on time, right?
Yeah, like Elindra doesn't have any other leads, and this is important to her, so she will just use her training to just bite her tongue and put up with Furia's bullshit, basically.
Absolutely. Well, when you arrive at the Ordo Magica Tower, you are let in by. Does anyone remember the slightly grumpy goblin doorman who you've encountered infrequently at the Ordo Tower? Well, he is on duty, and he allows you access with a somewhat disapproving look on his face. You ascend to Furious chambers, and you can hear quite the commotion coming from them. Not an alarming commotion, but people moving around there doing something that takes a bit of noise as you sort of ascend the stairs.
Okay. I presume there is a door, and the usual thing is to knock.
It absolutely is, but the door in this case is open. And as you arrive there and look inside, you can see that Master Cullinan Furia is clearly packing. He is directing 3 novices rather tersely in the best way to secure countless scrolls and books into 4 massive wooden chests.
Good morning, Master Furia.
He sort of wheels round. Can we? I didn't think about this, John. Can we have the art of Furia, please? Because it's quite characterful. He wheels round and says, "What? Oh, you? Yes.
Yes.
Today, I suppose."
It was, yes.
All right. Well, clearly, as you can see, it will have to wait. Our little interrogations have to be cut short for now. I have urgent travel to Indaros on Ordo Magica business.
I see. Do you know how long you'll be gone for?
I do not. If things go well, less time than if they go poorly, but I suppose that does not narrow down my purposes.
It does not, and I wouldn't dream of asking what those purposes are unless you were willing to share.
Well, not currently, but he sort of looks over his shoulder at the novices and takes a few steps kind of up to you to talk in a more quiet tone. Perhaps you should come to me in Indaros if your busy schedule of serving those in power permits. Maybe I can help you there instead, and maybe you can provide services in return. Violent ones, no doubt. Ordo business will see me in Thistlehold again. If you have not sought me out in Indaros before that, I will summon you here. But consider it, yes?
I will.
All right. Until then, Sir Elindra. You are definitely not Sir Elindra.
No. Safe travels.
He grunts with the indication that he has more or less completely already forgotten your presence.
I will leave.
Okay. There we go. That was that highly satisfactory meeting with Cullinan Furia. And now let us hop to an entirely different kind of meeting. And if we can get the art for Desaber up, please, John, that would be great. Anton, you find yourself at the Sun Temple again, noting that, the Templars who are on duty here are all the most recent Templars you have seen here, and they seem tired and overworked. But they grant you access to the upper dome of the Sun Temple, and you find yourself sat with Desaber at the long, large wooden table she favors. I think I've described before how that upper dome is getting more and more covered with like those sort of fabric dividing barriers to separate out her places of work and her place of sleep and of eating and things like that. This is even more so than the last time you were here. But notably, most of the times you are here, there are novices around, kind of maybe doing little bits of studying for her or various other bits of like administration and work. You're not sure to what end, but they have been there before and now they are not. The Templar accompanying you up is waved away by Desaber. He nods. You've been there enough that he's not kind of concerned by your presence. and as he kind of walks down the stairs and away, you hear a big clunk of the bronzed door closing behind him down the set of stairs, which is the first time that has happened as well. DeSaber shuffles over to the head of the table and indicates like a chair near her, and takes out a large silver tray of quite off-season fruit and vegetables, maybe grapes and some peaches, an apple or two, and sort of places them between you. And as for herself, throughout this conversation, she is plucking grapes and sort of peeling them very carefully, eating the skin and then popping them into her mouth with a look as though she is very much enjoying them.
Oh, yeah. Good morning, Your Holiness. How can I be of service to you this morning?
Well, Father Anton, I suppose it both pleases and worries me that this meeting will be a little different. May I ask you some questions?
Of course you may.
I wish you to answer these honestly, Father Anton. You have no need to fear in my presence. This will be a discussion of no judgment and no... I want you to be honest.
I always am in your presence.
I think that too, Father Anton. What do you think of the current direction of the church?
It is difficult for me to answer that with any degree of real conviction, because I do find myself sitting quite far away from the goings on of the church. But from the rumors that I hear, I do have worries that in a generation's time, that the church will perhaps not be what it is today.
And even further away from what it was yesterday, and in the days of your youth, and the even further days of my youth.
Correct. But then I sometimes ask myself, is that just the nature of growing old, that we remember things differently from our youth, and we see the difficulties in things a bit more readily as we age?
That is a wise man's answer, Father Anton, but I do fear that I remember my youth with a fearful clarity. Do you think of Prios as a god more interested in the forging of steel or the blooming of crops?
The blooming of crops, for sure. And do not take that to mean that he does not lend his power and support to those who do wish to fight the good fight. But I believe that he is a god of peace and of growth and fulfillment and spreading of life.
And what do you think of the teachings of Father Sarvola?
This is a difficult question for me to answer, because I do not agree with the way in which he has separated himself from the church and the way in which he has tried to convert others to his views. But I think on a personal level, it is okay for someone of the church to want to do good to others and to raise them up.
To raise them up. Where do you think Prios lives? On the thrones of man or in the hearts of his followers?
Prios lives in the heart, but it goes without saying that the power of the church comes from the thrones of his followers.
It does. Do you think that is how it should be?
I think that there are structures that are necessary to ensure that people learn of Prios and the power and joy that comes from his teachings.
And do you think Prios wishes us to wage war on the heretic, or to welcome him with understanding and reverence, so we might share wisdoms and grow as one tree seeking the sun together?
I do not think that there is a single answer for that, because I think that in my experiences, and this will hold in the last few seasons, that there have been those who I thought could be convinced of the beauty of Prios, and yet there are those that are just too far gone.
Ones taken by the corruption, you mean?
That. And also, I think there will always be those who have closed their minds and their hearts to Prios, maybe through the other teachings that they've had or through their experiences, which have unfortunately led them to this place.
But out of those who do not believe and those corrupted, which is the more dangerous?
If you had asked me that 2 years ago, I would have told you that it's the non-believers. But having spent time here and seeing the corruption firsthand, I am deeply, deeply fearful of what that represents and what the spread of it could mean.
Father Anton, I feel we may see the world in a similar way, and that a time of great choices and greater consequences is at hand. Can an old woman put her trust in you?
Of course, Your Holiness.
Well then, she reaches under her robe and brings out a very plain, unmarked, unsealed, folded letter, although it does seem to have a number of pages in it. It is just kind of folded together. She slides this across the table towards you. Here is a simple letter. Its contents are to be read by no one but the intended recipient, even by yourself. If there is even the slightest chance that this will occur, it must be destroyed beyond all recognition. Many good acts rely on this task. The journey to deliver this should not be perilous, unless an old woman has miscalculated and drawn attention where there should be none. You will not need your companions, and indeed, even if the bonds of friendship mean they should know of your journey, they cannot know of your purpose. Do you understand?
I understand.
Then please, she pushes the letter further over to the table and kind of towards you and releases it. Take this to Duke Enadar of New Berator. He dwells in the capital of the duchy at Ravinia. He will welcome an emissary of the Lightbringer. That is all you can know for now. and I apologize for that. Please go with the blessings of Prios and quiet haste.
Thank you, Lightbringer.
She kind of sits back as you... Sounds like you're picking up the letter and making your way out.
Yep.
You see that she almost seems to shrink a little in her seat as she does so. And that indefinable aura she has passes for a moment, and you see, just a tired old woman sat in her chair and feeling the weight of her years. And then you leave the chambers and out the front of the Sun Temple. And it sounds to me like you probably need to speak to your friends.
I do. Yeah. I will head back to the Witch and Filia, which is where I guess we will congregate, unless, at some point we'll congregate there.
Yep, that sounds fine to me. I think everyone did make noises about that. So let's assume it's midday. Perhaps everyone is going there for their midday meal. And Tom, I'm happy to have you walk in and the others just to be sat there, unless any of them want to not be there, which is also fine. Sounds like no, though.
Well, friends, I'm glad to find you all gathered here. I need to inform you of a slight change of plans. I have a new task, and it will send me on a journey to the south. You don't need to have any concern over this. I've been assured that my task poses no danger to me, but I will be making quite a long journey as part of my responsibilities to the church, and I do not know when I will return, but rest assured I do have full intention of returning. So unfortunately I will not be able to join you for your journey into Bright Davakar, and in fact I must very readily make plans to make the journey south. So I fear that this will be our last few hours in each other's company for quite some time.
Do you need companionship? Or do you have to go alone?
I do have to make this journey alone, Sardar. Thank you for your concern, and I do not want to keep anyone away from their other commitments to the Ordo Magica as well.
What's the task, Anton?
That is not something that I'm able to talk about at this moment, Ellinger. Unfortunately, but I think you know me well enough by now to know that I serve other purposes here, not just to be companions to such good folk as yourselves and to make occasional forays into the forest. There are other things that drive me and other things that I must do. So this is one of those things.
The church has given you a purpose.
Yes,
then I wish you,
speaking.
Then I wish you well.
Thank you.
Until I hear otherwise, I'll assume you're reviving Prius as the most qualified god reviver around.
That is amazingly heretical, Ascarai.
I love, by the way, that. Can I just say that felt really genuine in that when one member of a friendship group has to give quite solemn news to everyone else, everything feels very serious until one person makes a joke. So wonderful.
You gotta be careful, Anton. Yeah, you know more than most of us how the rock of the church seems a little bit more like quicksand in this day and age.
Let's just say that I have faith in what I'm doing.
Well, look, we all have to pick our factions eventually, I suppose.
We do. Steo, I will miss your witty remarks, and I will take great sadness knowing that I won't get to see you using that new spear for some time. But rest assured, when I return, I look forward to hearing many tales about your use of it.
Be safe, yeah.
Do you
too,
have time for one last drink?
There is probably time for one more round at the Witch and Familiar with you good chums.
Then let us not force these individuals to roleplay a final farewell with Anton, and definitely not a couple of hours of drinking and having lunch, because that would be maybe entertaining for us, especially if we had the drink and the lunch. Not so much for viewers. So, Father Anton, I'm presuming you're kind of hiring yourself, perhaps a pony or maybe a full-on horse, but that would gain some attention for a minor clergyman. But maybe a pony or even a donkey or something to take you down south. Ravenna is indeed to the south. It's to the southeast, kind of beyond where Castor is, further over to the eastern half of Ambria. You have heard of it. You know, it's a major city. You've heard indeed of Duke Inadar. Duke Inadar is the nephew of Queen Corinthia. He's the son of her brother who died in the attempt of rescuing her from the Dark Lords. So, definitely a prominent member of House Kohinoor. So,
definitely would hire a pony of some sort, and like I guess I've got all of the gear that I need, and guess I'd want to make sure as well that I had means to set light to the letter should I reach a position.
Yeah, you can have a flint and tinder with you and things of this nature. Absolutely. There we draw a veil over Father Anton as he sets off on his journey to the southeast. In the meantime, the other four individuals, what preparations, if any, are we making for our journey towards, not to Karvosti, I suppose, at this stage, but at least towards Karvosti?
I think refilling the adventurer's bag, I suppose, and getting as many getting as many healing salves as I can possibly get my hands on, I suppose.
Absolutely. Well, you have the cost of them somewhere, so feel free to buy as many as you want. I suppose it's worth noting, I guess, Anton, I can't remember how much Water of the Dusk we have left, but it is Anton's item. So I guess that has gone with Anton.
I'm not sure that there was any left anyway, was there?
There was actually quite a lot left. Like I was keeping track of this because we got the refill as well from Jakad's
when you went
Heart.
to Glimmervan and you went to Jakad's Heart along the way.
It's going with Anton.
Well, I don't know. I feel like it would, like, given that I didn't think to give it to the party, even though I should have absolutely thought to do that. I don't think it's like I'm happy to.
What about? Were you carrying any other? So, I suppose aside from the training wheels and the emergency bottle of, aside from kind of the emergency healing bottle, you weren't carrying any of the other kind of bindable artifacts, were you?
Well, not a bindable artifact, but you had found the book was returned to the Ordo Magica long ago. The Anton was actually carrying one other, not really an artifact, more of a minor mystical treasure, which is the drum that he found in the ruins where the I can't remember what they're called, but the kind of will-o'-the-wisp beings in the forest were gathering. That Lysindra saved you all from becoming icicles overnight. In that ruin. And Anton, you have actually had a chance to have that studied by both or the Ordo Magica, and you can do it to a certain degree yourself as well. It is a minor treasure, but still one that has some potency. It can be played to drive away weak-willed or timorous enemies for a period of time. and also friends. Essentially, anyone but the person playing it will have to, check to see if they are not driven away in fear by the sound of the drum. Okay. So could prove useful if you are in some way assaulted or attacked on your journey. So
great.
But yeah, I'm happy for you to retcom and pass the Water of the Dusk on to them if you want, or take it on your own journey. It's up to you. Oh, you're on mute, mate.
Yeah. How appropriate.
Try and get out of it.
Do we like? So I think we talked about this kind of just out of character for a second. I think we talked about the fact that the Water of the Dusk is kind of the training wheels. It's the emergency insurance.
Yeah.
Do we want to step away from that now? Because we've had a year or so at this, and we think
considering how the last couple of fights absolutely nuked the enemies. I'm not sure they're needed. That it's needed necessarily, and I can see Anton seeing maybe my companions will need this more than I will. But there's also a flip side of that. If anything does happen to you on the journey, perhaps the Water of Dusk could be the difference between Duke Inadar getting the Lightbring's letter and not getting it.
Yeah. I think on the other hand, though, where would the party be in Bright Devil without Anton? The main damage dealer and the healer of the party.
Yeah. DPS, tank, healing. He's got it all.
There's nothing to say that I couldn't grab a small other vial and decant half.
Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing against that whatsoever.
Okay.
Do we want to do that then to save making a choice?
That's good. Compromise position, just cut the number of doses down by half and give it to, I don't know.
Second
then 2 most questions. Highest person on the team is probably Alindra.
That's terrifying.
So 2 questions then. How many doses is half, and who would Anton give the vial to?
So I actually think that we've got 10 doses left, and I have been pretty good, I think, at making sure that's right. So yeah, 5 and 5, and I guess, I don't know, whatever, 6 and 4, whatever, perhaps more to the party. And I would probably pass it on to Steo as the other person who mainly does healing stuff.
Sure. Well, let's leave it at 5 and 5 just so we don't get confused.
Sure.
And then, 5 doses of the Water of the Dusk to Steo. And otherwise, is it just general preparations from people? Is there anything specific that they'd like to do in Thistlehold before Ganderald contacts you?
I don't think so. I'll buy some arrows, as always.
Absolutely.
Yeah, field equipment, rations,
standard stuff.
Yeah.
The usual
basic adventure
preparations. No one we want to go see or talk to or anything.
I didn't get a chance to figure out if Lysindra Goldengrasp had ever returned to town.
Correct. And the one person who could have answered you, I think you forgot to ask them. Maybe because you were in an alleyway with a disembodied voice, so
Okay, well, that's fair.
Oh, sorry. To know if Lysindra had actually returned to town.
I can't
Sorry, that is a valid thing to ask. Not that you're aware of.
Yeah.
You haven't gone to her house and asked either, I assume. I mean, have you?
I think instead of going to her house and ask, what I will do, just because I'm used to leaving town and adventuring, this is fairly normal for me. So as a side action during this, I'm going to ask around at Mother Mahera's and maybe see if Serix Atio knows if he's even still speaking to me.
Yeah, he'll speak to you. He'll speak in passing to all of you, certainly, especially Arendar. He doesn't seem to know anything about Lysindra Goldengrasp and is somewhat confused as to why you're asking him about her.
Fair enough.
As am I.
A mystery for the future.
But for what it's worth, you haven't heard of her return to the town or seen her around.
I think I might maybe check in on Erfons to see if he's actually planning on coming with us.
Oh no, he's not.
Or
planning
if he's
on
just
coming
being
with you.
good.
No, you check on him, and he seems fine. He His limp is reducing kind of week on week, it seems, but he seems buried in paperwork. Mahira has taken advantage of him being in the office so much and being as fairly on it and whip smart as he is, as to have burdened him with the task of calculating the, budgets and payments and
tax
all
returns,
this kind of thing. And he's also been busying himself making absolutely sure that the agency is free of any cult activity.
Fantastic.
Indeed, I think there was... this is a chance for me to talk about cult activity in general, actually, because Ascarai had said he was going to do a little bit of investigating in the downtime about that, and that's something I forgot to do at the Witch and Familiar. So let's pass on a little bit of extra information there. So Ascarai spent some time with the City Watch with Urfons and in Blackmoor with Arindar, looking for further evidence of cult activity. Certainly, other individuals have come to light, although none investigated personally by yourself, and so far no one else in the agency. The Midnight Cult seem to be all dead. Eroc's disciples have been thoroughly purged by Mother Mahira and her lieutenants, and the Red Eye melted away into the masses of Blackmoor. You have no idea what has become of Red Eye himself in the Thistlehold prisons. Night Pitch and a fervent Captain Marvello brought the hammer down on even the slightest hints of cultism within the walls over the weeks and months following the events that threatened the city, seemingly both alarmed at how much came to light and the possibility that unless it was handled internally, then the town would be swarming with black cloaks before long. Since the cells and gallows are full and there are no black cloaks to be seen, it seems their goals were met.
Okay, nice.
Are we still under instruction from Marvello to report to him when we're
No.
fantastic?
He made it clear shortly after the final events of Wrath of the Wood, and that there was no such compunction. Clearly, you were absolved of any responsibility for the crimes in the city. So,
brilliant.
I guess we're unlikely to be able to just go and visit Night Pitch and Yagaba, but
oh no, definitely not.
But what are the rumors about how they're doing?
Night Pitch has recovered from his illness.
Okay.
He's been seen out. As soon as he recovered, he was out and about all the time
to show that he had recovered.
Very clear that he'd recovered.
Yep.
And he's been seen, and Yagaba has been seen occasionally as well, mainly at the building works, with him helping direct that alongside the other, his commissioners of the city. Yeah, you've seen him out and about, but no, getting an appointment with him for no particular reason is...
Yeah, no, that's cool.
Not likely.
About our journey, did we get the impression from... I guess we didn't ask him, but we could go and find him. Is the plan to go on horseback or to go walking?
You can indeed see Ganderald before you go. He says that while you will spend most of your time walking, there will be a couple of pack animals. So you don't have to carry all your stuff. But yeah, the idea is to walk.
Okay.
Anything else from anyone?
I think so.
Well, then, let us move forward in time a few days to a gathering just inside the northern gates of Thistlehold, to where the rough path leads north under the eaves of Davokar. The four of you are there with Ganderald just inside the gate. To one side, directing the flow of slow traffic and berating the occasional guardsman who's a little bit too slow with their question asking. Dirac turns to you all and says, "You're fucking kidding me, right? You're all off again."
What do you mean again? It's literally been months, you wastrel.
And you're going there. He points out of the open gate to the north.
What do you think this town is for?
As far as I'm fucking concerned, it's for staying inside these walls where it's safe.
Okay, well, you've got your job and we've got ours.
Piss on me. All right, fuck off. Your papers are all good.
Thank you.
Hope so. See you later. Have a good one.
Come back alive or I'll fucking kill you. He's directing this at Steo.
Kind of chuckle and walk off.
The four of you alongside Ganderald and a couple of rather heavily laden ponies step outside of Thistlehold's walls and start the long walk north, swiftly finding yourself under the shadows of the trees of Davakar. And that is where we will end our first session of the Witch Hammer, which so far has used almost 0% of the content from the Witch Hammer. But that's fine. We're getting there. People, you'll see how we're getting there. It's all good. It's a personalized, tailored campaign to my player's experience. And also my own little nerdy meta references and meta plotting. So, if anyone has any questions or comments, throw them in the chat and we'll talk about them. We will also address the elephant in the room that people may have picked up on from the fact that one of our characters did not head to the north. But in the meantime, promo. Down below, you will see a bunch of links to YouTube and to Twitch. You've watched this on one. Please do check out the other. Feel free to subscribe, follow, all the kind of things that you do on those places. You'll also find links to our social media, our Discord, and our Patreon. If you want to check those out and get involved with them, please do so. We currently run 3 weekly streams. There's Warhammer on Mondays, Cincinnati Chronicles, which is a World of Darkness anthology series, on Tuesdays, and Symbaroum. That's this on Wednesdays. We also run a one-shot using various different systems once a month. The last one was Absurdia. That's on our YouTube now, as are about well over a dozen other different systems and games that we've played. And the next one is on Sunday, August the 14th, where I will be running the Forged in the Dark system Teeth, or at least a preview version of it, because it isn't out yet. Specifically a scenario called Night of the Hogmen, which tells you absolutely everything you need to know about the one-shot of the system and everything. So come join us for that. That's Sunday, August 14th. That should be fun. It'll be on our schedule. Yeah. So that elephant in the room, before we get to comments and questions, Anton is heading away because Mike is heading away for a while. Anton has to be written out for a short period at the beginning of this, but Mike was kind enough to join us for this first session to aid in that writing out. But we fully intend to have Mike back on board before you know it. It'll be good. But he will be, both he and Anton will be very missed, as I'm sure we can all agree. So
I just got one thing to say actually about that. Please keep up the Anton insults and bullying when I'm gone, because this would not be the right stream, the same stream without that.
Rest assured, Mike, if there's any one certainty in life, it is that I will ensure that you receive a veritable torrent of abuse, even in your absence.
ToxicGamers.com.
Can we still
no? We're just male British Gen X friends. There's no conspiracy here. Yeah.
Let's just throw up like the picture of Anton every character recap anyway. And just
and here's Anton.
Yeah, he's probably lost.
He's not here, and he's shit.
He's fallen off his rubbish donkey.
Can we not have like we did in Into the Odd with occasional flashes over to Helroth and just like, and now we flash over to Anton, who has just wandered off,
falling down a foamy chute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what we should do at the beginning of every session, what I should do is roll a die for Anton, and we'll see whether he's fucked up. You know. And if I roll a 20, which for anyone who doesn't know is the big, like a botch in Symbaroum, then I can think about what can have gone horribly wrong for him. So that's fine.
It would be nice to come back to a character that still has like 4 limbs and his eyesight. And
yeah, I bet it would be. So moving on from that, John, questions and comments and the like. We've had a very active chat today, which is very nice. Steve, this week Anton is mostly being chased by a small dog. Oh, I found something in the fucking game that is beautiful, by the way. So in the advanced player's guide, speaking of Anton and what we mock him for, in the advanced player's guide, there is a ability called Cheap Shot, which is like gutter fighting, basically like dirty tricks. And here are the two examples of the named kind of cheap shot, right? There's a headbutt, which is known as a gutter kiss, and a groin kick, which I shit you not, is known as a goblin squeeze.
They knew.
Which for regular viewers,
they knew all along.
They knew what would happen. They knew, oh, Mike's going to be in this game? Well then.
Better just insert this into the canon.
Yeah, better come up with a nickname for being kicked in the balls by a goblin, because that'll definitely happen to Mike. So, yeah.
Amazing.
There we go. Next.
Uh,
Painful DM, so glad to begin the next chapter. Thank you. Thank you. Genuinely, we are delighted to be back, and we're delighted that people want us to be back. I have missed Symbaroum way more than I thought I would, and I was genuinely very excited to kick off today, especially because I knew there were things happening that were like, maybe they haven't felt like big things to the audience, I don't know, but they feel like kind of culminations of plot threads working through. We have two of our party virtually recruited by the Iron Pact now. We have Anton off on services to the Lightbringer. You know, it really feels like the world is moving alongside our characters, so that feels good. Job76 just started playing book 2 myself. Fun 2 something. See what happens. There we go. Yeah, good. Well, as I said, you will have recognized nothing from what was literally the only things in this from the Witch Hammer are little bits and pieces of like what's happening in the meta plot that I'm flagging up, but none of the opening. It's no spoiler. The opening scene of the Witch Hammer is in Karvosti, so nothing from the book, which is exciting when I've advertised this stream as the Witch Hammer, but it is part of the arc, so you know it's fine probably. Lord Malus, pretty book. Do we mean the book of when did that was that said when I was
that was at the very start
opening,
when you flashed that delightful rectangle up.
I am just generally admiring the book. I'm not just scratching my beard with it, but you can use it for that as well if you want to.
It's very multi-purpose.
Lovely.
So just apropos of nothing, I wanted to point out that some people have noticed that our Thursday slot has changed around to a Tuesday slot, and I just wanted to point out that that is because we are changeling things up.
Oh, God. How long have you been sitting on that one, Chris?
Since last week's changeling, clearly.
Anyone who follows us on Mastodon actually will realize I used that pun about 3 or 4 days ago on the Mastodon stream.
He's a loose cannon on that Mastodon account. I don't even want to look. Next. Nightbites. Stio, he's my hero. Inspired me to run a pikeman in another system. Ooh. That's like Stio fanfiction. And not the bad kind.
Well, I was during almost all of that adulation, but thank you very much.
There we go. One from Mike. For the record, Anton would be played by a younger Malkovich. Sure. Yeah, I can see that. But, like, I don't think I've ever seen a Malkovich performance where I'm like, even if he isn't really evil, at the push of a button, he could turn out to be evil. You know?
Look, Anton just one-shot a flipping Death Wolf. Like,
also, was there a younger Malkovich?
Yeah, well, was there ever a young Anton? Eh?
That's a
sure.
point.
True.
I was thinking, like, kind of being John Malkovich era Malkovich.
That is not.
Does look
I guess, of course, that's younger because that's the direction time.
But he was.
But,
I mean, he must have been born looking 45.
Yeah, I cannot remember him.
45.
I actually don't think I can remember him. He was in Alive, wasn't he? Which is the film about the crash in the Andes. where they survived in the mountains for years, and that's quite old. But I haven't seen it. I cannot remember Malkovich before he was in films in the late 90s in which he did not look like a young man.
Yeah. That's the era of Malkovich I'm thinking of.
I only remember him from Aragon, the movie, which is just a great piece of cinema.
You have my sympathies.
Can we send?
And a great book as well.
Chris
Our
off to
generation's
deliver
Lord of the
this
Rings. It's fair to say.
Yeah.
I was going to be embarrassed because I was about to admit that the only thing I've seen John Malkovich in is the Hercule Poirot adaptation he did a couple of years ago. But I think Chris beat me.
He did a Hercule Poirot?
Yeah, the ABC murders.
Oh, I don't know.
It was on at Christmas because that's naturally when you want to watch a murder mystery.
Sure. Yeah. But
it was good.
The whole thing of Hercule Poirot is he's quite unintimidating, isn't he? And like, that's one of the things. He's very like precise and cleanly and stuff, right? But like diminutive. And Malkovich, I think, is probably incapable of not being intimidating.
I know.
Even in his like moment to moment life, you know.
Matt, have you only seen Con Air?
That is the only film I've seen. Yeah, Malkovich or otherwise. No, I can actually only think of 3 films I think I've seen John Malkovich in, which is Con Air, being John Malkovich, and Burn After Reading.
Yeah. Okay. Like, yeah,
that's fair. So no, I haven't seen his like Disney performances and his, whatever.
The musicals.
I was going to say, Steve, we need to move on here before we end up becoming a podcast.
Yeah, Steve, this is clearly going to be our next roundtable discussion topic. Yeah, absolutely. The history of Malkovich.
What the internet needs now is more podcasts about film.
More podcasts about John Malkovich specifically.
Completely.
Yeah.
That the wrestling casting earlier then talked into a discussion about who would play Mike.
Mike would be Wade Barrett, I reckon. Really? I've got bad news. I rolled a 20. Yeah. That's hilarious if you're into wrestling, by the way, just so everyone out there knows.
The whole 3 people who will ever watch this who know Wade Barrett's catchphrase.
Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate that we're committed to our quest of finding the smallest possible intersecting part of the
most
Venn diagram.
Niche.
It's all Venn diagrams, like circles within circles. You've got to zone in.
One day we'll find the part that's just Matt, and then we.
I think I might have already found it.
Well, I mean, you live it every day, sure.
Yeah, I know. You don't want in here. Hey, J-Berg, don't think that group have yet informed Blackhawk that FNA is dead. No, they have not. So just as well that it wasn't Blackhawk in The Witch and Familiar, because that's going to be a somewhat sad scene to play out.
I mean, he hasn't, as far as we know, tried to look for her since she's been dead for about a year.
As far as you know, he's a traveling minstrel. Perhaps he pines for her on his journeys. In all honesty, and it hasn't been really intentional, but I've never really thought to reintroduce Blackhawk as a character, partly because he just hasn't come up, but also partly because I felt that as time has gone on, we've more clarified into like more of a serious storyline, and Blackhawk doesn't necessarily fit that mold. As in, if I randomly throw him into a scene, it could massively change the tone of the scene. So I've got to wait for a circumstance where that it doesn't matter or isn't a worry. You know what I mean?
He's going to show up just after one of the characters dies.
Yeah, or like in the scene in The Witch and Familiar where everyone gets poisoned and maybe he just turns up and is like, tune on my lute or whatever. And like, it doesn't work.
I also like the fact we now have an in-joke where the threat of Blackhawk is almost more of a part of the scenario than Blackhawk himself.
Yeah.
Just the looks on your faces every time Matt says that there's a bard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a bard. Not that bad.
And the thing is, let me tell you, Stephen, if you went back and watched you'd be like, why are they so fussed about Blackhawk? He's just a drunk guy who hits on women a lot. That's basically it.
He's been built up to be this
Yeah.
I assume he's some kind of demonic lord, or
No, he was in a very formative period in the campaign start.
Okay,
that's about it. Anyway. 42. The most unrealistic thing in this fantasy world is that the witch and familiar can afford to give away room and board for life. Yeah, I think the sort of notion at the beginning was like Alamar quite like having them there for free because they were effectively like security as well. But yeah, the bluster of that has probably gone a bit for him,
especially after we got a bunch of his customers killed.
Yeah.
Well, we're bringing in the new clients with publicity.
Yeah, you will be now for sure. Yeah, going to the place where the heroes of the sinkhole drink will definitely be, like I say, improving his clientele. So
it's essentially a tourist attraction at this point.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
signing autographs.
Steve, yeah, the offer from Ganderald, you get to keep all the cursed items you can carry.
That's standard Davokar. That's standard Davokar terms and conditions. In fairness,
that still sounds like a good deal. By Symbaroum standards.
One from Chris. Big, can we have a quick chat in my office energy from DeSaber? Sure. Yeah. I didn't know how Mike thought that meeting was about to go, but
this is the final description of Anton.
DPS, tank, healer, raconteur, bon viveur. Yeah. That's it. Definitely, I definitely think raconteur when I think of Anton.
And one last one.
From Sam, by the time we get back, Anton's going to be head of the church. Maybe that letter says this man needs to be the head of the church.
If you ever need to roll some dice, this is the man.
This is the guy with all the luck. He's going to lead us. Yeah.
Maybe at some point you guys will look to the southeast and you'll see white smoke billowing.
Oh, Mike.
Oh. What a way to wind up a nice Pope reference.
Lovely. Thank you, everyone. So we hope you enjoyed this first episode of Witch Hammer with very little Witch Hammer. Also, thank you to people who have followed us recently. First off, we've had a resubscribe from Azimuth. That's lovely. Thank you, a 21-month one. And then on top of that, there were follows today from Treads26 and the Bleak Season. Welcome aboard, folks. Like I say, thank you to my lovely crew. Thank you to everyone who's watched and enjoyed. And a special thank you to those of you who watched and didn't enjoy. And we will see you next week for more Symbaroum. Bye-bye.